All right. Concept is that we write a program like this, and then we write other programs based on this. The written code is called class. Every class has an identifier so that we could refer to it like this human. Every class has got the data. These data in P2 was global variables. Scope was global variables. Here they are called either attributes or these are called properties. And these are same subroutines as we have been dealing with, but these subroutines are called methods. Remember, this data and this code, they are grouped together as a single unit. If it is written code, it is called class. If the instance of the class is loaded in computer's memory, it is called object. So this is class name or identifier. This is data, attribute, or property. And remember one thing, if it is singular attribute, it means the field of the database table. If it is attributes, then what we are talking about them over here. So these are variables at the global scope. It is understanding of your syllabus that these all of the variables without any distinction has to be declared as private, means any other class, any other code, any other object should not be, as per your syllabus by the way, should not be reaching them out directly. So what happens that if I want to change this name, I would have to write a subroutine for it. If that subroutine is written, other classes, other objects will be calling those subroutines, and those subroutines will actually be changing it. Sometimes it is referred to be as the robust programming. Sometimes it is considered a good programming practice because no data can, in this particular case, be changed accidentally because other classes cannot access this particular area directly. So you have to protect these variables which are global in this certain class from access of outside classes, other classes, without having a particular subroutine for that. This is called encapsulation. Let's see further. So these are data attributes and sometimes these are called properties as well. And then we have methods. Methods are functions and procedures together. So let's say we used to call it subroutines, and now we will call it method. Should be public. Why it is public? For the reason that these all methods when will be accessed by others will then provide the data or change the data. Okay, so they have to be what? Public, and these all have to be what? Privates. Acha. This tell all, if you see here, tell all is here, it is here, it is here. So what happens that if we have got several classes, we can drive one class from another class. We can drive one class from another class. And that really does not mean that we should copy whole of the data and the methods in the driven class. No, all we do is just to write one single line, which is called in VB inheritance line. Inherits. So when now you see, it is not at all necessary that we have a class so that we could drive another class from it. It is also possible that we are not having the class, but we have a compiled version of it. Okay? So compiled version, if we have, as we do when we install a software, we have all these classes present in .dll files. So we can always drive it. If we have the code and we are driving it, it is okay. Most probably we are the creator of this code as well as this code. But sometimes we don't have the code. We have compiled classes. So from those compiled classes, we can also drive classes. These are two different categories, but these categories are not part of your syllabus. Just understand like that. If we have got a class, whether it is in the code form or it is in the compiled binary form, we can still drive the classes from it. So the class from which we are driving are either called base class, superclass, mother class, and lastly, which is not mentioned here, is abstract class. You might have this question: what is an abstract class? Abstract class is the class which is not used in the code. What does that mean? We wrote this class, but we are not using it. We are not using this class because we have driven other classes and we are using them. So a base class which is not used in the code means we would not have any single object from the human class, let's say, then it is said to be what? Abstract class. These classes are made and they are meant for inheritance. They have to be inherited and those inherited class then will be used. Okay, so what are abstract classes which are not actually used in the code? All right, so now this is teacher subclass or child class or driven class. When a class is driven from another class, all the data and the methods, all the data and the methods are also become the part of the driven class. If name, address, age is not mentioned here, it really does not mean that this teacher class does not have name, address, age when it is driven from human class. It has it. All right. And it has these three additional data items as well, attributes. So what these methods meant here is that when you call this method, it tells the name, means whatever the data that is stored in the name will be returned. Tell address does same and tell age does same. But this tell all, what it is doing, it is telling about name, address, and age, all. So if we have driven this class from this class, we have added these three data items, attributes here, plus we have also introduced these three methods here to tell these data. And then we have tell all. Since this tell all is driven from here, it would still be telling just name, address, and age. It would still be telling name, address, and age. So sometimes when the driven class have the same named method as the mother or base class, and you as programmer want this same named method to behave differently in the driven class, it is called polymorphism. What does that mean? Tell all here is just telling name, address, and age when it is driven. It is inherited in teacher class, it would still be telling name, address, and age. But it's not the case over here because of the change in programming, and somehow It got the ability to tell not just the name, address, and age, but the qualification, subject, and experience as well. So when any method that is inherited and has the same name but the different output, different behavior, it is called what? Polymorphism. Poly means many, morph means shapes. So the same named. So this is called polymorphism. Driven class has same named method with different behavior. All right. So inheritance. A child class inherits all of the data and methods of the mother class. This is called object oriented programming. A programming method involving objects as in real world means like we, let's say we are all objects, or we are all humans, we interact to get the job done. Similarly, so many teachers will be created from this class and together they will get the job done. So many students will be created from this student class and they will get the job done in one particular um, program. A class that is a code written, an object instance of the class in computer's memory when it is the class code is being executed. And then encapsulation. Encapsulation means both data and methods are combined in the class, and when the object is created it is abstract. Data type means the data and the class is and the object, they both are in there, they are grouped together, they are working together. And data is not available until unless you have a method. Data is not available until unless you have a method to access that data. So you cannot just handle the data directly, rather you will be calling the method, related method, and that related method would either be setting the values or telling you the values or returning the values, whatever you call it. This is called data encapsulation. Data is hidden and can't be accessed without related method. Okay? Is this understood? So there are so many terminologies: base class, class name, identifier, attributes, methods, inheritance, polymorphism, class, object. All these definition needs to be understood. You should be knowing that all the data should be private and all the methods should be made as public so that they can easily be accessed. Now, the same thing is being programmed here. This is human class. Which one? This one. This is human class. It has got three attributes. I told you that these attributes are global level variables. And these four methods. See, public class human. We have to write it this way: public class human. Instead of dim, we use word what? Private. Private does the same, but it restricts the access of this variable only limited to this program. So private, human name as string, whatever, these are on global level. Why? How do we know that it is in global scope? Because it is outside any subroutine. And then we have tell name. This is a function. Obviously, this function returns the name. Which name? This name. So if it is returning a name, means we have to return a value. In that case, it has to be what? A function. Tell address returns address. Tell age returns age of that particular human being. And then we have got, this is a must, we have got a constructor method. Constructor means a method which is a procedure which is only called once and automatically when we create a new object from the class. Remember, class is made, it is compiled and it is kept. So whenever you are creating object, you can create many objects from the same kept compiled class. But object is like we humans. God might have written one single code for us, and we are the instance of the same code. But we have got different data, different appearance, different background, different parents, different this, different that, which actually distinguish us among each other, all humans. Similarly, this one human may have so many different forms. All right. So when the object is created for the very first time, this method, which is always named new and you cannot change this name new, is called automatically. CIE insists when you create a class, you should be having this method. So when you create a class, you pass on initial values. This method initiates the class and take all those values, and the new object which is just created would have all those values assigned. So the purpose of constructor, and this is called constructor. Constructor is a method which is called every time a new instance of the object or the class is created. It accepts initial values, initiates the class with that values. All right. Similarly, when we write a program of or a class, it's not like that anyone can inherit the class and change your methods. Like tell all over here is having a different working, and over here it is having a different working. If you allow other programmers, only then it is possible that other programmers may not just inherit, but they can override it, change the behavior of it. So what happens, this particular function tell all is said to be overridable, and you have to declare it as overrideable. So if it is overridable, only then in inherited class it can be overridden, means the behavior may be get changed. So it's not just public subs name, balki it is public overridable function tell all, which does whatever it is doing. So if it is overridable, only then polymorphism will be possible. Now this is base class or abstract class. I have not made it as abstract class because in abstract class we make a class just to inherit other classes from it, and we do not use it in the code directly. You just use it for inheritance. Okay. So this is base class. And then I have got this teacher class. Which one is this? This one. This is supposed to not just inherits everything, introduce its own attributes, its own methods, and polymorph one of the method as well. So this class is inherited from human class. So as soon as you write public class teacher, you have to write this line so that inheritance would be possible. So this public class teacher inherits from human. So it not just inherits one thing but everything. Now it is adding up its own attributes here. Private qualification is string, private subject is string, private experience is string. And its constructor would not just have these three, but these three as well. Because for a user of the object, it would not be different. For the user of the object, teacher, all six members have to be there. It is only known inside by the programmer or the object that half of the data is coming from the mother class. So it receives name and address and age, whatever, alongside qualification, subject, and experience. So when an inherited class is referring to its mother class, it is using this keyword my base. The constructor of this class is calling the constructor of the base class. Constructor of this class is calling the constructor of the base class and transferring all these three values which are in the base class to the base class. So first three values will be the constructor of the base class will be called, and these first three values will be sent to it, and rest of the three values which are actually the local values will be set here. All right. And for polymorphism, over there we wrote overridable. Over here we write overrides. But again, whatever the functionality of the mother class tell all function, it is retained. How? Return my base dot tell all. Base का tell all उसका result आएगा. And then we add up our own result to it, merge it, and we return the whole thing. Whatever the base class returns will be clubbed, will be grouped with our own data, and then it will be returned. This is polymorphism done. Why it is polymorphism? Because in the base class it names tell all, and in the driven class it is still called what? Tell all. That is how polymorphism happens. And then this is the main program which is utilizing all these classes. So dim Zafar as new teacher. So I'm transferring name, address, age, and teacher has qualification, subject, and experience as well. So all six variable will be sent. These three then in return will be sent to the base class, and rest three will be used locally by the teacher class. But over here, this is as human. Remember, when we are creating an object, this Zafar is an object of the class teacher. We use the word new. This is the difference between declaration of the variables, declaration of the array, and the declaration of objects. So when we use new, it means that we are creating an instance of the class by this name, which is called an object. Remember, if it is not a variable, if it is an array, In that case, we don't use new, because then we have to create every single element of array as the new instance of the class. So let's say if Zafar was like an array, we would never use new. New is not allowed with the array. We will be just like Tim Zafar as teacher, and then we will be taking every single element and we will be using new with it. This is what you are going to see in your solution of the P4 release. And then if you like the value of the experience to be changed from 20 to 50 years, what you would do, you have this object created. When the object is created, its data set is created. If you have got, let's say, 50 human objects in the memory, all of their data sets attributes will be separate in the memory. All right, so that they could be called with their names and they could carry their data separately, and that is how it works. Okay. Few questions from the past papers. An application is to be implemented, an object-oriented programming language will be used. Explain how OOP uses classes and objects. So this is just theory. An application is to store and process data for major event venues. Venues include football and cricket stadia and theaters. Three classes are to be designed as shown here by the inheritance diagram below: event, stadium, and theater. Remember, when you inherit a class, you have to show arrow upwards. You can mix these lines like in here, or you can draw them directly. It really does not matter. Explain what is meant by inheritance. It is theory, as we just described. All venues have the venue name and address recorded. Means all venues, चाहे वो stadium हो, चाहे theater हो, would have name and address. So if it is common, it will be placed in the mother class. Because when they inherit, they will inherit it as well. The number of seats, it would be an integer. A list of type of events staged, such as play, rock, concert, and all. It is not a single variable, it is an array. Whether or not, it is a Boolean thing. Whether or not the theater has a restaurant. A list of names of any team that play their home fixtures here. List of names, array. The capacity, integer. Whether the stadium is seating only, Boolean. Complete the class diagram showing the classes and the properties given. So we will be making subclasses and putting in the data. The following data is for one such venue. Okay, we would have to. Look at this question. Explain the difference between class and object. Class is the code, object is an instance of the code in the computer's memory. The following scenarios to be implemented with object-oriented programming. A library has resource available for lending out borrowers. Resources include books, book subclass, and recordings, recording subclass. Recordings are available for either film from recording, we would have another subclass film or music. Library ID for every item. If it is for every item, it means it would go to resource, the top class. Author for the book, so author would go to the book class. Release date for the music, CDs and films. CDs and films were inherited from recording. So if it is for both of them, it would be in recordings. Title for every available item, resource, the top sub base class. Number of tracks for CD, that would be in this music class. Running time for films in the film class. Whether or not on loan would go to the resource because everything will then go to the loan. Explain what is meant by encapsulation. The data cannot be accessed directly. It can only be accessed if there is a related function or procedure available for it. Now let's see your um, pre-release material. It is available from the same link. This is task 2. Task 2 says a toy shop needs a computer system to store information about its toys. The developer writes a program using object oriented programming. A toy has the properties. See, word for attributes over here that is used is properties. Name, obviously it is string. ID, it is a string because it has TE11 in it. Price 0.99, it would be real in pseudocode and would be decimal in VB. I told you that, yeah, currency in pseudocode and decimal in VB. I told you that if it is not price and a real number, then it has to be single in VB. And if it is a real number and it is currency, then it has to be decimal in VB. Minimum age, this would be an integer. So there we go. Name, ID, price, and minimum age. Then it says a computer game is a type of toy. Type of toy means it is inherited from the toy. That has category, as car racing, string, console as cam station, string. There we go. Category and console. But with this category and console, we have name, ID, price, minimum age as well because it is inherited. A vehicle is a type of toy. It means it is also inherited. It has the properties of toy. Type, string, height, integer, length, integer, weight, single, not decimal. Why single? It is not currency. All right. And in pseudocode, it will remain real. There we go. Type, height, weight, and length. And then 2.1, use the following incomplete class diagram to specify these three classes. Make sure that you include the constructor. So it means constructor would go to all three classes: new, new, and new. Okay? This new has the same name but would have a different behavior here because this new does not require name, ID, price, minimum age, but category and console as well. Over here, it is only requiring name, ID, price, minimum age only. This is polymorphism with this constructor. At get and set, two types of methods alongside other methods are necessary: getters and setters. Getter means those functions which are returning the value, like tell name, tell age, tell qualification. Those were what? Getters. Those subroutines, those methods which are procedures, they are accepting values and setting their own methods are called setters. So, as a general practice with all getters, we prefix names with the word get, and for all setters, we prefix the name with word set. Getters are always functions because they are returning values, and setters are always procedures because they are not returning value, rather taking values and setting their own attributes. So there we go. Set name, set ID, set price, set minimum age, get name, get ID, get price, get minimum age. So these getters are functions, these setters are what? Procedures. Here and here as well. These getter setters would work here as well, like they are belonging to this computer game or this vehicle as well. But they would actually be working from its base class. So this class is, which class is this? Toy. This class is also the abstract class. This class is called abstract class as well. Why do we call it abstract class? Because we are not going to use it directly in the program. Rather, we are only going to use the classes, driven classes. The toy is also called abstract class. Find out what is meant by inheritance. We know now. The computer game and vehicle classes inherit from the toy class. Add arrows to represent the inheritance relationship in your class diagram. There we go. You can merge and make it upwards, or you can directly make it upwards. Task 2.3. Write program code to create the toy class. Make sure, see, not attributes. This time they are calling it properties. Make sure the properties are declared as private. We discussed about it. You have a constructor. We discussed about it as well. You have get and set methods for each of the property. So task 2.3. Public class toy, private name, ID, price, minimum age. We know a string, decimal, and integer. We discussed about it just now. And then We have set name subroutine. Sub in Visual Basic stands for procedure. We know that, right? Public sub set name accepts a value, and in turn it actually sets the value, assign that received value to the global variable attribute. Now remember this me keyword. This is optional. Few of the past papers use it, me dot, but this is not used for the local variable. This is only used for the global attribute variable. So I cannot use me dot name is equal to me dot n. No, me as in me class. Me dot means class attributes I'm calling to. This n is a local variable, local, that we use as parameter. So n would not be there. So only these 1, 2, 3, 4 will be called with the keyword me, but it's optional. So you might see sometimes, don't see that sometimes. So public sub set id set कर दी, public sub set price, आपने price भी set कर दिया. You are watching these validations, we discuss it in short while. Constructor is the new. Public sub new, it accepts name, id, price and age, and sets all those variables. So when this constructor is called, at the time of instantiation of the object, creation of the object, at the time of instantiation of the object or creation of the object, automatically it receives value. Since it is receiving value and sets the object's values, attributes value, it is a procedure, always a sub, but the name is fixed, new, so that VB code automatically invokes it without you calling it. All right. So this is done. Task 2.4. Write program code to create computer game and vehicle classes. These classes are inherited. Properties are declared as private. You have a constructor. You have get set method. The class inherits properties from the toy class. Okay. Public class computer game inherits from what? Toy class. This is inheritance. It has got two variables, attributes, category and console, but its constructor is receiving all those four elements for its mother class, base class, and elements for itself as well, category and console. For name, id, price and age, it is calling its base class and setting it there, whereas category and console, it is setting it own self. All right. And then we would have setters and getters is created. And then we have vehicle class. Vehicle has got four of its own attributes, and four attributes are in the mother class. 8 attributes. So it's whenever the new is invoked, it receives 8 variables. 1, 2, 3. Remember, this is a line break. Means if I would not put it, the line would have gone beyond the screen and you would have to scroll all the way. So we use this line break. until here. From this, it is a single code line. So what we do, VB aligns the thing automatically. All you have to do is to leave a space here and an underscore and enter. Your code line continues. If the code line is so big that it is going beyond the limit of the screen and the screen is scrolling, you just use this. All right. Four of the variables sent out to the base class and rest are set here. And then we have setters, we have getters. 2.5. Add validations where appropriate. So I put it some time and I left it some time. It was just increasing this code size, so I did not put validations all places. Uh, or add validations to the constructor and set methods for all three classes. For example, age may be limited to between 0 and 18. So I use this while validation. Once I get through this, then I'll set age at the end. Similarly, for prices, I said that I thought prices should not be less than 0, means should not be in negative form. So I put a validation to keep it above negative numbers, either 0 or above, not below. Similarly, in setters, I use the same thing again, but afterwards I just wrote sentence, add appropriate validations, but I did not put it because that was moving my um, concentration away from the actual code. So in all setters, I just wrote that add appropriate validations. Task 2.6. Create instances of computer game and vehicle with appropriate data, means object बना रहे हो in the main program. अब we are not actually inside any class. We are in the main program. This is main module. In main module, let's first discuss what they say and then I'll be doing rest. Create instances of computer game and vehicle with appropriate data in the main program. Store the objects in arrays. Remember, I told you that when we declare an object as an array, we do not use the word new. So there we go. Here I declared CG array of how many elements? 101, starting from 0, as class of computer game and vehicle as class of vehicle. ठीक है? The data for one instance of the vehicle is given to get you started. ये उन्होंने सारा बता दिया. And this is vehicle actually. Vehicle toy. How do I know? Because computer game had this category and console. A procedure prompts the user to input ID for a toy. Acha, this is searching. Let's just complete. Now, I have used three composite data types, user defined types or records or structures or just types for myself to be used here? Most probably when this question would come, this question would not come. We know that we appear P2. A question like this would appear. So I have used three. Structure of the toy. This is not itself a variable, it is a type. Type of this variable will be created. A variable of this type will be created. So structure of the toy, name, ID, price, minimum age, and structure of the computer game, category console, and structure of the vehicle, type, height, length, and weight. These are just structures. Structures are either in a separate file of the project or they should be described in the global area under the module, not above the module, under the module before any procedure starts in the global area. So that every subroutine may create a data type of this particular user defined type. And then I created these computer game. Remember, toy class is not used. That is why it is abstract class. Then I made this array, and base toy as a structured toy here. So base toy would have name, ID, price, and minimum. Why do I call it base? Because it is from the base class. And then subclass, sub CG as structure CG, sub vehicle as structure vehicle. I will be using it for temporary purposes. So I'm capturing data to these, and then from this I'll be sending data out to the objects. And then I actually used a counter because I'm not going to, whatever I have seen teachers and students attempting this solution. Like if there are 100 toys and 100 matlab, games and 100 vehicles, they put it in a loop. So it becomes compulsory for the user to enter all 100 games and all 100 vehicles. I use a different strategy. Since I told you that when we create an array, we do not actually instantiate all the objects. We just create placeholders. We don't use the word new when we are creating an array of a particular class. So when there will be a new object, we will be instantiating that object in that one array element with the word new. Although we have got 100 placeholders, but we don't have 100 objects there. So I used to variables, global variables, for the purpose of counting how many computer games and vehicles are created. So before presenting the menu, my system is showing that I have entered one game, two games, three games, four games. It is just for your information. And how many vehicles are there? And I left it open, this option, add a computer game. You enter. So you may have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, जितने भी डालने games आप डालें, ऊपर counter बढ़ता रहेगा. But it is not at all necessary to enter all of them single-handedly. If you have got 2, 3, 4, keep it. Sort them, search them, whatever the operation that you want to complete with those, just go on and do those. Commit those operations. And after those operations, if you want to still add more, go ahead and do it. But you cannot go beyond 100. So for that, I have created a variable, global variable, total computer games and total vehicles. So we created user defined type structures, total computer games, and I initialized it with -1. Why? Every time you press 1 to add a toy, it will be added. But the first one would be what? 0. Because it is starting from 0. So as soon as you add input data computer game, it adds 1 to the counter so that we could use this counter ultimately to place data at that particular element. Okay, so if I will make it -1 at the start, when this equation would be executed for the very first time, this -1 would become 0, and the first element that you are going to enter to the array would be at location or element number 0. So then we present a menu, clears the screen, and why +1? Because when it would be -1, it would be showing what? 0. When it would be 3, it would actually be 4 because it is 0, 1, 2, 3. That is why +1. Add a computer game. Okay. Add a computer game would call what? Input data to computer game. So input data to computer game. First of all, what it does, it adds 1 to the global counter so that we have an idea that out of 100, how many computer games are already entered. Then we take input, name of toy, ID of toy, price of toy, minimum age requirement, and game category. So remember, these four are being taken by base toy variable, base toy dot name, base toy dot ID, base toy dot price, base toy dot minimum age. These four values will always be with the base. जो हमने तीन स्ट्रक्चर बनाया था उसमें से पहला बेस टॉय था, फिर then we had sub CG. So these two are for sub CG. Once we have all these six collected, we create a new instance of the class computer game at this particular array location. So it was -1 becomes 1, sorry, 0. So computer game array location 0 is equal to new object of this class with these variables and values. So category, console, and base name, ID, price, and minimum age. Same happens with data vehicle. It adds 1 to the counter. Again, for base, it takes name, ID, price, minimum age. And for vehicle, it takes type, height, weight, and length. When all these 8 are combined, it creates a new instance at that particular element. So that is how, let's just See, so total toys we have got just 0. So I press 1, enter name of toy, ABC, ID of the toy, 4, price of the toy, let's say 300, minimum age, let's say 5. These 4 elements for the base. गेम कैटेगरी आप कर लें, इसको अभी गेम है, कोई सी भी कैटेगरी कर लें, आर्केड कर लें, गेमिंग कंसोल कर लें, एक्सबॉक्स. This one is added, and now you can see that computer games are 1. If you enter vehicle, it would go with that. So afterwards, a procedure prompts the user to input the ID of a toy. The program finds that toy and output the values of its properties in an appropriate format. Write the procedure and test it with appropriate data. 2.7, which is actually search. All right. Now, what we are doing is we are going from 0 to total computer games. This is the same global variable that is telling that how many computer games do we have. It clears the screen, asks for the toy ID. Now you see, we have got toys of vehicle type, we have got toys of computer game type. But we are not asking our user if it is a game or it is a vehicle. What we are asking is just for the ID. And what we are going to do is we are looking in both the game and the ID and the vehicle. Now, the trick is I've got this flag as well. If it is found is equal to false. Now I am looking for the game in a loop. For index is equal to 0 to total computer games. And then I am looking if if the index is 0, then if computer game 0 dot get ID. How would I know the ID? Object is created. I'll call what? The getter, get ID. That will return me what? The ID, and then I'll check it if it is equal to my ID which I have collected in here. If it is matched, then is found is equal to true. The flag is set to true. And all of the data after get, all the values are gotten and then shown to the screen. And we don't have to loop further for that. So we put what? Exit for. And if it is a game and it is found, then there is no need to go and find the ID for the vehicle. Because if that ID belongs to a game, that game is found. We don't have to look into vehicle anymore. Say, so if is found is remained false means we have not found that ID in the game, then we will go in. Otherwise we don't. And this goes as same. So this serves the purpose. Let's run this program. Now add a vehicle. Name of the toy, ID of the toy, that was 4, this one is 3. Price was 300, now 250. Minimum age, let's say 9 years. Type of vehicle, car. Height of vehicles, let's say 2 meters. Weight of vehicles, let's say 1250. ज़्यादा हो जाएगा 125, बल्कि ये भी ज़्यादा हो जाएगा, सही है. Length of vehicle, let's say 1.2. See, one vehicle. Computer game ID was 4. Here ID was 3. First, let's show them. Acha, it just shows computer games. So let's search number 4, ID 2. ID 2 is not found. Number 4 again, ID 3. It was what? A vehicle. It showed it. Number 3. Oh, hold on. Number 4. 4. And it is now showing. It was a console game. So the thing is working. Okay? So our system is not asking the user whether it was a computer game or it was a vehicle. It is just asking for the ID, and if ID is found, it is shown. All right. So what's the science behind it? It first looks into all of the games, computer games. If it is found, it shows it and sets the flag to found so that we don't look into vehicles anymore. If it is not found, flag remains false. It gets into vehicle then, and then look every single object. It is a linear search. Linear search means a search which goes one by one. Then 2.8. A procedure allows the user to input the number to be used as a discount rate. The price of all the toys will be reduced by that number. For example, 10 would reduce the price of all toys by 10%. So we made one discount. So what I'm doing, I'm not discussing this is nothing thing now. I'll discuss it later. Here I have made one mistake. Instead of total CG, I used 5. I restricted it, which is my bad. It has to be total CG then. Okay? So what is happening? We are asking for enter discount percentage. If somebody enters 10, it means all the prices will be reduced by 10%. So I am finding the price of one toy in the variable price, and since it is the whole number, I would have to use this. Then I'll divide the price by 10, so I get 1%, and then we'll multiply by that discount thing, which is as many percents. Let's say 10%. 1% multiply with the number of percentage, and then I'll subtract it from the price to get the price, resulting price after the reduction, after the discount. And then I'll use the set price setter procedure for that particular index object to set it back. And then I'll be taking the vehicle as well. So I'm doing it with every vehicle and every um, computer game. So this would actually work. So number 3, so let's say number 7, uh, price is 300. Number 3, 7%. Discount applied to all twice. Press any key to continue. If I'm showing it 7, you see it is now 279. All right, 21 rupees. 7 rupees out of every 100 rupees. So 321 rupees. So this is now 279. write the procedure and test it with appropriate data. We did it. Research the difference between bubble sort and insertion sort. Bubble sort is simplest sorting algorithm that works by repeatedly swapping the adjacent elements if they are in wrong order. Insertion sort, we will be revising this. Bubble sort is from AS, insertion sort is new one. Insertion sort is a simple sorting algorithm that builds the final sorted list one item at a time. Anyways, I'll not discuss this now. I'll be discussing it later when I'll be discussing algorithm. So I have wrote both, although they afterwards gave us a choice. Okay, write at least one algorithm to sort and output arrays in ascending order of price, not ID, price. Okay? So it was actually doing it. I have used both insert sort as well as bubble sort. I wrote both. All right. And let's just enter one more value and see if it is being sorted. So number 7, it is price 279. So second one which I'm going to enter would be price, let's say 200. Computer game, enter name of toy, ID of the toy, price of the toy, minimum age for game category, racing, console, PS4. Now if I show it, you can clearly see that price 279 is above and price 200 is below. Now sort computer games using insert sort or bubble sort is up to us. So let's use number 6, which is bubble sort. Now you see 4 came down, ABC 4, Age, Arcade, Xbox, and 200 went up. Okay, 279 below, 200 up. Swap over. Okay, it is now sorted. So it is working. All right. So when we will be discussing this insert sort and bubble sort, उस वक्त हम इसको दोबारा review कर लेंगे. Anyways, there are so many questions, there are so much expectation that you have to cater to as far as this object-oriented language is concerned. One thing remains, that is called containment, and sometimes it is called aggregation. Now see, point of concern over here is containment. And we also called it aggregation. But keep quiet, pay attention. Containment aggregation means if we have a class by the name car and we have another class by the name tire, Tire, I'm always confused. Anyways, whatever, it is car tire. Now, I cannot inherit a car from the tire or other way around. I cannot inherit a tire from the car. They both are different objects, but they are used with each other. So, what will happen? I'll be likely writing public class car, whatever the variables attributes I'll be having, and whatever methods I'll be having. Similarly, I would have public class tire with all its attributes and methods. What I'll be doing, I'll be using, I would have 4 tires here. So I would have one of the attribute which says like this: private my tires as tire. What happened here? A class has used an object of another class as attribute. A class here has used an object of another class as its own attribute. Let's say if I don't have 4 tires, let's say just 1 tire, maybe it's still the same. I'm talking the same, isn't it? Means I did not inherit it. Rather, what I have done, I have used it, I have used it as an object in another class. So a class is not inherited, but using another class as an attribute. So in that case, it will not be that way. It would rather be a different representation. A diamond box on the side where the variables attribute is used. All right. So this would be read as car contains tire. This is no more inheritance. This is containment or aggregation. This tire may come downwards, and then we would have this diamond upwards. Really does not matter. It is not inherited, it is being contained. An object is contained in a class. Is it understood? Sometimes it is called aggregation, sometimes it is called containment. So the diagram is different. Be careful about it. So that's it for object oriented programming. There are so many questions, there are so many examples. So, anyways,